Hello everyone, this is Brother Homer A. Barnes of Genesis Regeneration Ministries, better known as Hip Hop Pop, and we're here today for the conclusion of our teaching on daily grace for daily living. Now the purpose of this teaching is to get us oriented into the realm of grace that God is ready to give the believer, the child of God, who is seeking His grace, and to take away the self-centered aspect or the self-centered approach that we have shown and we have been taught to show in church by our teaching and preaching toward receiving God's grace. God's grace has a purpose for us, and God's grace has a place in our lives. And we want that grace in its place. Daily grace for daily living. I believe that if we all would seek God for daily grace for daily living, instead of this outrageous believing for things and for stuff and for selfish reasons and purposes, we will become more knowledgeable of God in His ways and in His love for us. Daily grace for daily living. And as we discussed on our last two teachings, the first taste of grace is that the first grace that a believer should receive and be needing is, and does need, is the grace of knowing that he is justified. And for some reason, this is such a conflict among believers. The average believer does not know heaven is his home. The average believer does not know he is in right standing with God. The average believer does not know that he is justified. This is the grace or the blessing that God wants you to have. Galatians 3:13 said, so that the blessing of Abraham can come upon the Gentiles. And when that we look at it and we see, oh, the blessings of Abraham. Well, Abraham had a lot of cattle. Abraham had a big herd. No, it said the blessing of Abraham, which basically stated God accounted his faith unto him as righteousness. And the way we're going to receive that faith of justification, or that grace of justification, is through faith. It is the only way to receive it, through faith. This is the first grace that God wants us to have. Knowledge of who we are, knowledge of the fact that we're in right standing with Him, and knowledge that we are justified. That sets the foreground for all other grace to be received, that is, as it was discussed in our last two teachings. Now we're going on today to the practical application side of the whole thing, because as Randall Worley said, justification without application is futile. It's ineffectual. It has no effect. So we're not just trying to make it, ooh, that's deep, ooh, that's heavy. We're trying to give you some revelation that you can bring into application. Now we're going to see what application, practical application we can take to receive this daily grace for daily living. And we were also going to look in Isaiah 58 today, in Isaiah 58 and Isaiah chapter 1, who had some very good instruction. Even though it was a negative circumstance, we can depend on God. God will always give correction and then direction into the way to receive His grace. Now, the topic of teaching is based around fasting. What are we offering to God to receive His grace? Basically, grace is unmerited favor. However, some of us, preachers included, have seemed to have forgotten that, because we are constantly, and I'm doing it on fasting because this time of the year, the first of the year, many churches are doing their annual fast. You hear it all. Oh, we're fasting red meat. We're going to fast for 3 months. Television, we're going to fast this. But there is something that is not correct about all of it from what my ears hear. Now let me tell you about me. You can tell me how good your pastor teaches. You can tell me how anointed he is. And you can invite me to come and hear him. I don't want to come hear your pastor. I'm hearing your pastor every time you open your mouth when you talk about the word and in your lifestyle. I'm hearing your pastor. Okay? So, the thing is, what we want to bring out today is the fact that we have been approaching God for his grace for wrong purposes. We have been approaching God for his grace for self-centered motives. And I'm talking about we are motivated to do it in our own spirit. We are motivated to do it from the pulpit. And we're going to look at some instances in today's teaching in Isaiah 58 that are going to show us the infraction and also show us the correction to take in order to receive God's grace. Now, let's go to Isaiah chapter 1, and we're going to be looking at this in the Amplified Bible and the New Living Translation. Alright, Isaiah chapter 1. Now, I'm going to go straight to the 11th verse, Amplified Bible, Isaiah 1 and 11. To what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices to me, unless they are the offering of the heart? For what purpose are your sacrifices to me? Now, back to what I was saying a minute ago, almost all of the Christians, I try to get myself out of saying 99% of the Christians, because I don't have accurate percentages, but I can tell you this. Nearly all of the Christians that I hear talking about them fasting and their church fasting and their individual fast are wanting something from God, or wanting God to do something for them. We're abstaining from red meat because I actually heard these words from a minister. We're abstaining from red meat for 90 days so God can do some things in our life. So God can do. We want God to improve some areas in. Wait a minute, you want God to improve areas in your life? Okay. All right. And I just want God to give me some favor on this job. I want God to do. Fasting in that sense is not a true fast. Now, we're going to look at some things, and I'm going to show you some things out of some commentary. Don't just take my word for it. It says, I have had enough of burnt offerings of rams and the fat of fed beasts without obedience. God is saying, you brought enough of this stuff up here. You brought enough of these goats and all of this, but I haven't had you follow it up with obedience. Okay. And I do not delight in the blood of bulls or of lambs or of he-goats without righteousness, right being and right doing, or justification in our New Testament application of it. God does not want us going through cosmetic Christianity. He wants our heart and what we are doing. Now, what kind of sacrifices can we make to the Lord that are of heart, that are of the heart, offerings that he will accept, a fasting that he will accept? Okay, we're going to look in Isaiah 58 because it is a rich chapter of first correction and then direction into God's grace. But I'm not saying grace is for give me this, give me daily grace for daily living. This is the grace. If you go for this grace, things will be added. Okay? Let's go to Isaiah 58. Of course, this got a torn page in my book. Man, I've really been up in here studying. All right, we're going to look at a few verses, and then we'll get to the actual practical application of what we need to do to receive daily grace for daily living. But first, we got to look at where we've been in error. Verse 2. Yet they seek, inquire for me, and require me daily, and delight externally to know my ways, as if they were in reality a nation that did righteousness, and forsook not the ordinance of their God. They ask of me righteous judgments. They delight to draw near to God in visible ways. We want to draw near to you in ways that we can see. Show us the manifestation of us being near to you. Show us your grace. Okay? All right? He said, let's go to the 4th verse for the sake of time. The facts are that you fast only for strife and debate, and to smite with the fist of wickedness. That was for that group of people, the worshipers there in Isaiah 58. Not saying that you're doing the same thing, but this is the part of the verse I want you to hear. When you are not fasting through your heart, when you are not fasting, when it's followed up by obedience and righteousness, God is saying this: fasting as you do today will not cause your voice to be heard on high. Can you imagine that? You come into, and these people will come into the temple every day. We doing good to get there 3 Sundays out of the month. 2, most of us. Fasting as you do today, or worshiping me as you do today, will not cause your voice to be heard on high. God is not going to even hear your petitions and prayers. All right? It says, is such a fast as yours what I have chosen, a day for a man to humble himself with sorrow in his soul? Is true fasting merely mechanical? Meaning, it's the only thing you're going to do when you fast is go without red meat. It's the only thing you're going to do when you fast is go without chitlins or caviar, whichever side of the track you're on. It's the only thing you're going to do when you fast is go without TV. It's the only thing you're going to do when you fast is to go without your favorite this or your favorite that. Is it only to bow down his head like a bulrush and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him, to indicate a condition of heart that he does not have? You see, God wants the heart manifest in your worship and offerings to him. Is this, you are going through mechanical Christianity, cosmetic Christianity, just going without a little meat, some red meat, or a TV show for a month, so you can get something from God. Your voice is not going to be heard on high. Okay? Now, I want to go here to the Living Bible, the New Living Translation, and it brings out a point that says here, this kind of fasting will never get you anywhere with me. You humble yourselves by going through the motions of penance, bowing your heads like a blade of grass in the wind. No, the kind of fasting I want calls you to free those who are wrongly imprisoned and to stop oppressing those who work for you. Treat them fairly and give them what they earn. Okay? Now, let's back up a little bit. It says, you dress in sackcloth and cover yourselves with ashes. Is this what you call fasting? Do you really think this will please the Lord? Do you really think going without watching the American Idol for a month is really gonna please God? Do you think